So it's a little bit of a, slow day,
Yeah.
but good, good. Finally, we got this together.
Nice.
Awesome.
Really good.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for coming. For everybody, I want to introduce Fernanda, who doesn't know her. She's from Hitchhiking Stars. She's a certified astrologer and historian and has an MA in cultural astrology and astronomy. And I love her work. She's very open and honest about everything astrology and about herself. And I love what she's doing. And you should go check her website about her blog posts. They're amazing as well. So lots of good information. So excited about this talk. So before we start, I just want to say why we chose this topic is because Fernanda gave a talk to London, what is it,
A lodge.
Astrological Lodge of London about this topic. So
Yeah.
yes. So tell me then more. What was it about? What inspired you to do this?
Right. So I got an invitation to give a talk, and it wasn't my first time. So I've given a talk to the lodge before, and I think I've given various talks on like serious subjects, like Pluto moving to Aquarius and how this might affect us, and I don't know. I thought about giving talks on like the astrology of psychopaths and blah blah blah. And then, or I've given one about the Handmaid's Tale as well, which also is like a dystopia and da da da. And so I think my Scorpio rising was like topics. And then when I got this invitation, I had it in my mind because I watch a lot of the cookery shows, especially the ones with Gordon Ramsay and MasterChef.
Oh, yes.
And so I've been watching a lot of them, and I was like, oh, what's their chart and what is this? So then when I got that invitation, I was like, well, actually, what about the culinary? What about the astrology of the culinary world? Because it really sounded like a light, fun topic, and I was just curious to explore something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Because nobody really talks about it a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's why it's so interesting and intriguing for me. And because I love food, I used to have a food blog as well. So this is very interesting. I would like to know for the beginning. So, what would you say would be the placements in a chart that makes somebody loves to cook, not just to eat? We all love to eat, most of us, but to cook, to actually explore that. What would be the signature?
That's a very interesting question, because I went into the research very open-minded, and I was like, let's see what comes up. I had no idea what was going to come up. I mean, I had a thought, maybe Taurus, because Taurus is related to food, and Cancer as well. And those are the traditional signs that we think when we're talking about food and astrology. But once I went in the research, and I kind of kept it very broad as well, because if someone, if people that have been to my talks, they realize that I am very mercurial. So I kind of tend to go, I tend to keep as open as possible and just go on a little journey of like, what about this? What about that? I don't necessarily follow one way of doing it only. I want to see variety, and, I want to see a little bit of everything. So what I did was to look into French cuisine. So some of the old, chefs that like sort of created French cuisine and what we know, sort of established French cuisine in the world of culinary, which is like from the 17th and 1800s as well. Then I looked into the earlier chefs as well, like Julia Child, and another woman that published a book as well, like the book on, well, how is it the title, which I thought was really funny. It's like the I Hate to Cook book. So it was like a feminist who wrote a cookbook, and she was, and it kind of like signs of the time as well, because it's like from the 50s and 60s, so women are kind of getting liberated and they're not supposed to be at home anymore. So that was her chart as well. I looked into a couple more from that time, and then I looked into celebrity chefs, which is something that started rising from the 80s, sort of late 80s, 90s as well. So that's kind of a phenomenon where like you're not supposed to learn recipes anymore, but you're supposed to create your own signature. That's where signature dishes come about, and where, being a celebrity chef, having a restaurant, and people wanting to go to your restaurant, they don't even know what you're going to serve, but it doesn't matter. It's your name that counts. So that kind of started rising there in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. And also around that time that we have the what's the name? The scientific gastronomy, basically, molecular gastronomy. Yeah. So I looked into a few charts of molecular gastronomy as well, because I was like, what is that? What's going to be there? You know, what kind of signs are we going to find? And I expected to have a lot of Uranus and, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I looked into, obviously, Michelin star chefs as well, because I was like, okay, the ones that have the most Michelin, I will look at their charts. And then I looked as well at a couple of TV, like Jamie Oliver and, you know, etc. And I have to say, from all of these that I've done, so all of these journeys from the French cuisine, 17th, 1800, up to Jamie Oliver, and, you know, this more recent chefs as well, there is a lot of Gemini, which is like really surprising.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to cook, but I always thought it's my Venus in Cancer. But now that you say that, maybe it's my Gemini, Sun and Moon and Mercury.
It's really interesting. And some of the people in the audience were like, well, maybe Gemini because rules the hands, and obviously you're cooking, you're doing something with your hands, la la. But I think is the need to learn, is the curiosity to go after and to create recipes and to read and to write books, to write cookbooks. You know, there is a lot of Gemini. That was something that was like most of the charts, no matter what time, there was a lot of Gemini there. Like
that's really
Gemini
amazing.
Rising,
really,
planets rising in Gemini. Like it was really impressive. I didn't expect that. As I said, I always thought my Venus in Cancer is kind of the cooking person, but I think now that maybe it's not. Maybe it's my Gemini part of me that likes to cook. But that's very interesting. I think this is what I found out. I mean, there were a couple of chefs like Wolfgang Puck. I think he's a Cancer. There are also like Taurian chefs, and I think Heston maybe has Mars in Taurus. You know, there are like some placements in Taurus and things, but what was really heavily present was the Gemini. Julia Child is a Gemini rising. There was a lot of Virgo as well, actually, and that's interesting because you got Virgo rising as well.
Yes, but that's the measurement part, you know, how when you bake, everything has to be very precise. That's the Virgo is striving in that, right? So, of course, when you have a Virgo placement, you will love that. Oh, you know, I would feel that Gemini is more about cooking and just putting ingredients and tasting it as it goes. But, but Virgo is more like, oh, no, give me the exact measures and, you know, I want this, it has to be a perfect cake, right? You know?
Absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of the Virgo in Gordon Ramsay because he's a moon in Virgo, so he's got moon in the 4th house, Saturn in Pisces in the 10th house, so he's known for that Saturn in Pisces, so he's this authority, right? But it's an exact opposition to his moon in Virgo, and he's got Mars in Virgo as well. So so he's got their stellium in Scorpio and a stellium in Virgo, basically, because he's also a Pluto Uranus in Virgo generation, and he's always all about the detail, the eye for detail. He's very much about the passion. So if you've seen his cookery shows, like he's always letting go of the people that are not passionate enough. So this is like one of the first ones to go. But he's also letting people go when they're not very good with details. So they're not being able to redo some kind of dish with precision, or, you know, there is a whole way of putting a plate together, right? The way that a dish needs to look like. And so you need that Virgo eye to be able to see there's like 3 leaves of basil and not 4. Or, you are
telling a story, right? You are telling a story with a dish, right? Because it's the whole story of what is this, you know. That's maybe it's also a Gemini thing, and Virgo, the mercurial fight, you know. Just I want to teach, you know. Virgo likes to teach. See, I'm going to teach you, you know, how to. That's perfect. I love. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So would you say that it's more of a water element and air than maybe fire, or is it more earth? Which element would it be more?
It's an interesting question because the charts will kind of contain a few different things, and I think you'd see stelliums in like characteristics of that chef. So, for example, Fanny Craddock, which is this chef in the 70s, she's this British chef that was on a TV show, and she was very peculiar. She would like do these cookery shows, like TV shows, but dressed in gowns. Like she wouldn't wear like aprons and stuff. And she had this really weird makeup.
I've never heard of her.
And she had a very strong Aquarius. So
Yeah,
you
I was
can
gonna say
see
something Uranian Aquarian. Yeah, okay.
exactly. So you can see that she had this strong Aquarius because she would refuse to wear aprons. Because in her mind, it was like she wanted to portray, part of her message was, is you don't need to cook making a mess. So I'm gonna cook wearing normal clothes, but it wasn't normal clothes. They were like gowns and things like that, and like really strange makeup as well. So that would be her Aquarius. So there were things like that that you could see in the chef's charts that would give a little bit of their characteristics, you know. Like if there was more fire, then they would probably, you know, they would be a bit more visionary, but they would still have that Gemini there backing up in terms of
That's amazing.
communication or writing books, or you know, and the Earth as well with the tastes, you know. I imagine I'm pretty sure it was Heston Blumenthal that had the Mars in Taurus, so I'm sure his ability of, you know, tasting something was there as well.
Does
Yeah.
Hester have something Uranian? Aquarian, he is very outside of the box. Like he's totally pushing it in another level. Like I watch him. He's amazing. Like he's really pushing it.
I'm gonna
Does he
open
have
his
something?
chart here.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I
I
can
think
tell you right
he's
now.
something special.
So I don't have
I don't know, guys.
his birth. I couldn't find his birth time, unfortunately. But he is a moon in Virgo as well. Again, you
As
see, we've
well.
got this strong Virgo. So he's a Sun, Mercury in Gemini. There we are. Like we got the Sun, Mercury in Gemini. We've got Mars in Taurus as well. So there is the Mars in Taurus. Mars is in opposition to Neptune. So he's a Mars Neptune opposition. But funny enough, there isn't a very particular strong Uranus. He's got Uranus Pluto conjunction very tight at 15 degrees. Maybe because I don't have the time of his birth, his moon may have been a little bit closer to Uranus, and that would say, you know, a little bit of that Uranian side. But it's really interesting how it surprises you. His Jupiter is in Cancer as well, which some of the participants also noticed. A lot of the chefs would have a powerful Jupiter. So it'd be a Jupiter
you know what?
in Cancer or a Jupiter on the descendant. You know, there'll be a strong Jupiter somewhere in the chart.
I should have been a chef. Now that you talk to me, I should have been. I have a Jupiter in Cancer, like and with Venus and conjunction, like what is happening? So
that's why you got your blog.
Yeah. That's why I had. I did some. My Gemini, it was very active, so I did like a little ebook for recipes for baking for kids because so the kids can get involved in the baking.
Nice.
And when you mentioned the aprons, I always feel that it's like a restriction, like Saturn putting, like you have to be free to cook. You have to be creative. Like if you're putting apron, if you have everything sterilized, you can't be creative, right?
Yeah.
You have to have that. I like that idea of even with kids, you're learning, teaching kids to cook and bake. There's mess everywhere. That's how you're creative. Kids, that's how you get your creativity. So I like that.
Yeah.
No aprons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're mentioning the kids as well, and I think that Cancerian signature also drives a little bit there. So you see, with astrology, I think with everything, so you can say what's the signature of killers, or what's the signature of music. I mean, there isn't a particular specific signature, but there is a style. So when you look at the chart of somebody, you're gonna see a style, and that was something I heard the first time years ago when I went to a lecture by John Green, and he was giving a lecture about psychopaths, and he was like, you can't tell by a chart, which I think it seems obvious now, but you can't tell by a chart if it is a psychopath or not. But what you can tell, if you know it is what kind of weapon they would prefer. So you can get the style. So you can get the style of killing, the style of cooking, the style of the style of acting, or So if we know who they are, so if we know that we've got charts of chefs in front of us, what we get is their style and what they like to focus on. So, for example, when you're talking about the Cancerian signature and how you were teaching kids, Jamie Oliver also has that. Is strong because his chart ruler is in Cancer. So
his kids are actually involved in his life. His kids are doing it with him all the time, right?
Well.
So,
and he was talking about kids' meals. I mean, he's known for talking about kids' meals. So he's a midheaven in Cancer, a Venus and Saturn conjunction in Cancer as well. So like taking school meals very seriously and talking about that and being known for that. And Alice, he's a Gemini as well.
Yeah, I know, but he has a moon in Capricorn, as I recall, right? He has a,
Yes,
yeah.
he's a moon
So
in
that gives you a
Capricorn.
little structure. That's why he
Yeah,
likes structure. You're putting it into schools, you know, giving it a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah, yeah,
Is a
yeah,
moon in the third house that also represents schools, and he's the Sun
yeah.
Mercury in Gemini. So South Node Sun Mercury in Gemini, and that those points
Unbelievably.
in Cancer as well. And his chart is particularly interesting as well because of the transits when he went bankrupt. So he had a very difficult few years, and he had to close all of his restaurants, you know, in 2017, 2018, and his chart is massively cardinal. So he has the ascendant at
Oh,
19
yeah.
degrees Libra, midheaven at 26 Cancer. He's got that moon in Capricorn. He's got Mars in Aries. Like, he has a lot of very important points in the cardinal signs. So when Pluto moved to Capricorn, he was having transit after transit after transit. And a lot of the things that's happened recently was connected with these transits that he had as well. So it was really interesting when I saw that, and when I was reading, you know, about his story
Yeah,
and the recent things that he went through as well. And he also
yeah,
has
yeah.
a son in the eighth house, so, you know, the sense of loss that he might have felt, you know, not that we all gonna do that and that we all
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, I know,
feel
I know, I
that,
know,
but
I know. But you can always
yeah,
transform. You know, you can rise up and be a new transform after all this stuff, a new person that is even better, right? So
absolutely.
I love Pluto, and I know it's hard, but it's happening. But after that, I just believe you're a better new person, stronger,
Yeah,
stronger
and
for
lighter
sure.
as well. You do
Yeah.
let go of a lot of things in the
Yes.
process, so it's very
Yes. So
interesting. There
that's
is this
good.
guy as well. Let me see, because I got all the charts in front of me now as we're talking. So there's this
Amazing.
guy, I
Amazing.
think Ferran Adria. He's the person that has the most Michelin stars. I think he has 31 Michelin stars. So as of 22. So I think he passed away already, but he's a French chef. The three chefs with most Michelin stars, of the top four, three of them are French. So the French definitely have a very powerful, you know, connection with food and
It's a
culinary.
tradition. There's also a
Yeah,
tradition with
and
them,
it's a very
and
old
pride.
tradition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
pride. You know, they're kind of proud of their
exactly.
cuisine. So yeah.
And the only chef that's not French and is there as well, I think he's the third one, is Gordon Ramsay. So Gordon Ramsay has, I think, 17 Michelin stars as of, you know, 22. But I'm looking at this guy I just mentioned to you, so I don't know how to pronounce, so sorry everyone,
Okay.
French. I really, my French is not great. But Ferran Adria, so he has 30, like I said, he has 31 Michelin stars, and his ascendant is in Gemini. His Mercury is in Gemini, his Venus is in
Unbelievable.
Gemini.
I'm really shocked. To be honest, I'm shocked that chefs have Geminis as a signature. So actually, we would say that Gemini is a
Yeah,
signature for being a
it
successful.
seems like, because a lot of them did. And the moon in Virgo as well. So again,
Yes.
we have a moon in Virgo. And I guess for Michelin stars, you know, when we're talking about that, we're bound to see strong Saturn, a strong Capricorn, a strong Virgo, because it is about the detail. You know, we're not talking about homely cooking anymore. We're not talking about Julia Child, you know, coming on TV and talking to, you know, to the people at home. And I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
she went to the Cordon Bleu as well. So she, you know, she was a Virgo herself. I know she was a Leo, but she had a strong Virgo as well. She had Mercury, which was her chart ruler in Virgo, etc. So there seems to be a pattern, you know, the Gemini and
Mercury.
the Virgo. Exactly.
So
But he's a Taurus. He has a sun in Taurus. So sun at 22 degrees Taurus, but ruled by that Venus in Gemini. So
that I like what you said about style. So for example, some of the chefs, depending on the planetary aspects and stuff, is they're going to do more traditional cooking. Some they're going to more exploring
yeah,
more healthy cooking, or you know, minimalistic one, like those cuisine nouvelle. How is it? How do you call that? Something like that.
yeah,
Anyway, so it's like different types. Yeah. So you're going to have. Yeah, I like that. I think that's very nice. So we have a Gemini theme, and we have a little flavors of other stuff that gives us a
absolutely.
style. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. I know.
absolutely. It's really interesting. I mean, I just said the wrong chef though. This one is another chef. He's from Spain, actually. I'm looking here. Hey, you
Mm-hmm.
can't even blame on the Mercury retrograde.
No, it's
He's
okay. Don't
actually
worry.
from Spain, but there it is, the signature with the Gemini and the Virgo. So yeah, I mean most of them had that. So And the one that wrote the book that she hated to cook, she had a strong Aquarius, which was expected as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Know.
Yeah. That's just to provoke, right? So Aquarius, they like a little bit of provoke, right?
Exactly.
So like, oh, I'm going to put a title to the book. So you want to want, what is that? What does that mean, right? So
exactly.
So, yeah, if anybody has any questions or do you want to share if you like to cook and what are your placements, please do so. I want to mention something else. I know you told me that you have a specific method of doing astrology. It's called, I don't want to be wrong, constructive astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so curious about it as well. So if you could just share a little bit what it means.
Sure.
Tell us, please. I'm really curious about that.
Sure. So whenever you start your journey with astrology, it becomes very clear that when you type in like on Google and you say, "Ooh, my moon is in Scorpio. Let me have a look what this means." Like the amount of negative things that you find is just insane. Like the amount of like, oh, this is bad. Oh, this is horrible. This is difficult. Or interpretations like, things like, oh, Venus, Saturn in the second house, you're never going to be, you're never going to have money and you're this. And I find that there is a lot of limiting beliefs around certain, placements in astrology, which I don't see the benefit of. So it's something that has been in my mind for a very long time since I started. And as my understanding of astrology grew as well and went a bit deeper and stuff, I just realized that actually symbols are multivalent. And so that moon in Scorpio might mean that sometimes you're struggling with being honest with your emotions with people because you don't trust them, but it can also mean that you're very resilient. It can also mean that your mother has secrets. It can also mean that she has a strong emotional life. It can mean that your inner life is very alive and intense, that you're a very profound person, that you need an intense bond with somebody. Like, it doesn't have just one meaning.
Yes.
So for me, that was something that was really important to kind of encapsulate in my work. Because when someone comes to see me or when someone is asking me about something, I don't want them to leave with a limited vision of what they're capable of. So to leave my consultation and saying, oh God, I've got Venus, I'm never going to have money. Shit.
Yeah.
What's the point on trying? So I kind of coined this idea of constructive astrology because the main point and the main goal of using astrology is to really construct the life that you want to have. So that moon in Scorpio has all of these different shades, and it's not about being Pollyanna and pretending that there are no difficult aspects, but it is about finding the most creative way of expressing it. And sometimes, in the same day, you might go from the worst to the best, and we're humans, we have moods, we feel bad sometimes, and we need to have a bath. We're in a constant learning journey about self-care, about like tackling our needs. It's like suddenly I'm really moody and complaining about life, and I realize I haven't had lunch, or I realized that I didn't want to do something, I needed to do something else. So I feel that with astrology is the same, that we might fluctuate between the worst and the best of what we have in our charts, but when we have a consultation or when we study it and when we look at it through the lens of constructive astrology, we can think about the best ways according to our story, according to our needs, to our goals, that we can apply that.
I love it. That's why, guys, you have to follow Fernanda. She's full of optimism, and I love it. I just love it. I think we need more of this in the world. I think we surely do. We need to put people at ease. Like, I feel that as astrologers, we need to kind of put people at ease and help them, understand how to to live to their best potential, right? Not to, tell them this is bad, this is wrong. It's just not only it's not ethical. It's just wrong. So.
Absolutely. I think this is, this has to do with a lot of the lack of self-work, that we might project our own shadows, and we might project our own limitations and say, hey, you're incapable of this, or you're incapable of that. So I really feel Lise Green used to say, and she was obviously very much in psychological astrology, so we can understand where she's coming from with that perspective, but she'd say that you have to do some kind of therapy when you're doing that kind of work, because astrology is almost like counseling somebody. You're receiving someone there, you have that kind of responsibility. So we're like inevitably projecting things and and so on. So So I'm really not into that. And even like channels about
I
the
like
doom and
that.
gloom, and it's just like, nah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any plans soon to teach others your method? I would love that. Do you have
Well,
any
yeah,
plans?
absolutely. I mean, I love teaching. I have
Good.
created some workshops, like some webinars,
Mm-hmm.
like series of introduction and intermediate. So every now and then
Mm-hmm.
I kind of give them a game,
Good.
and I'm always teaching them
That's good.
in my talks as well. And I always say this is like a window. When you come to see a talk, it's like, this is my little window that I'm opening here, and I'm inviting you to look at things through that little window, and then you can make your own mind. You can choose what you want to take with you and how you want to do this as well yourself. But but
Excellent.
but I have this very strong feeling that nature is nature. Like, we project what's good and what's bad. We look at I don't know, we look at mushrooms, for example, or
Okay.
mycelium. So when you open your fridge and you see that lemon there that you forgot
Yeah.
about, and it's all blue, and you're like, and it's sort of,
But that's
and I was
that's how I
watching
cook.
this.
That's exactly what inspired me. Like, what is this? Okay, what can I do from here, from this? That's what I throw with. I like that. That's maybe that's the Gemini thing. I love cooking like that. Okay, what can I make from this that is left over? But like I have a little bit.
Absolutely, like going creative with it, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what I was thinking more though was like this instant aversion we have when something is rotting. So when you look at that
Oh,
lemon and that lemon is going rot, you're like, oh no, I don't like it, and you just take it and just chuck it away, right? But that's a kind of a lens that we're using to see something, and so
hmm,
we attribute those feelings and the fear of death into that as if it was something bad. But apparently mushrooms are these amazing creatures that are like regenerating the soil, and um, recycling everything in nature, and they have this massive amazing power. So there's a documentary on Netflix about them, and I really thought about them in relation to Pluto. But what I'm trying to say here is that we can think about astrology transits in the same way. It's like, yes, winter can be boring and can be like, oh God, it's windy and gray, and I want to go out and I want to have a walk. But it's necessary. It's like,
yeah,
it's not good or bad. It just is. It's
yes,
like Mars is entering Cancer today. It's not good or
hmm,
bad. It just is. Like, that is an energy there.
exactly.
And it is nice if we think about Mars as the protector, and you think about the archetype of the protector and the protector of family circles, and we can think in positive
Actually,
ways
good time
about
for
Mars
cook.
as well.
So actually, if people would like to explore cooking, this is a perfect opportunity, right? Must
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
So now
Feed your
it's
loved ones.
absolutely
That
yeah.
is
So that's a
that Mars in
perfect
Cancer.
yeah. No, but I want to go back. I'm just curious. What did you say about Pluto and mushrooms? I'm so
Yeah.
curious. What is that? Please tell me more.
Well, it was it was like me. I can't help. I'm very mercurial as well, and whenever I'm
Yes,
watching something, I'm just like, making all these thousand different connections as well. Mm.
no problem. Take
And
your time. You
so,
have to.
yeah, I've got my throat. It's a bit weird because I've been having allergies. Anyway, so I watched this documentary on mushrooms on Netflix, and it was just like all of the descriptions. I was like, this sounds like Pluto. If we think
Oh.
about, again, if we think about astrology as its symbolism, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have an exact, it's not like
Yes.
A plus A equals B. So whenever someone tries to talk about astrology as science, I find a bit difficult because of that, is interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are a lot of different layers and levels of interpretation that we can have, so it cannot be precise. So whenever I'm watching things, I'm making these connections of these different layers and levels of interpretation. And when I was listening to all these characteristics of mushroom, the documentary is called Fungi, I was like, this sounds like the realm of Pluto. I mean, their roots go really down deep, and they're all interconnected under the ground. And
Mm-hmm.
we're usually afraid of mushrooms because of its connection with
Poison
decay.
and
Yeah,
poison.
and
They're
poison
not
as
all
well.
edible. They're not all edible. So
Yeah.
Pluto is also connected to poison. Like yeah,
Yeah,
I see that.
exactly. I mean, this
Oh,
is
that's
very
interesting.
interesting as well, because our taste buds are related to survival as well. Like to knowing if something is poisonous or not. It has to do with our taste, which is another little balloon of idea. But fungi and the mushroom. So a lot of these different, you know, and this guy was telling these experiments that was done, that they used different materials. So they dropped some oil into water and stuff, and they were like using different materials to purify that water again, to, you know, like we're talking about the climate and etc. And that's Pluto,
but that's also Pluto again. But it's also Pluto, oil and purifying. That's also Pluto. Yeah, absolutely.
And then and then the idea was that a lot of the other materials, they cleaned the water, something didn't so well. But with the mushroom, it didn't just clean and repurify, regenerated the water, but it recreated a whole ecosystem there. So there were like creatures and there were like birds, and, you know, and I thought that this ability of the mushroom to regenerate things are very Plutonian.
Wow.
I mean, imagine if we lived in a world that things didn't rot. So there's this interesting book by that Portuguese author, José Saramago. So it's Death at Intervals, I think. And I remember reading that book and being like, wow, that's such an interesting idea, because he always thinks about dystopians and, you know, things like that. But in that one in specific, death made some kind of rebellion, and it was in a strike. So people wouldn't die anymore in that country. So he's he's imagining a country and stuff. And so that's kind of imagining our life without Pluto, or our life without mushrooms as well. It's like, imagine if nothing died. Imagine if nothing got regenerated through that decaying process.
But even the waste, the food waste, like we shouldn't do it, and then we can use this as a compost.
Exactly.
Compost is also Pluto, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Rebirth from that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never thought about it this way. This is so interesting.
And this is what the job of the mushroom is, basically, in general, you know, fungi in general. So it was really amazing to think about that, and to think about Pluto in that way as well. Because if you think about that Pluto approaching your planets, and you listening and watching this now, you got a sun in Aquarius, or a Venus in Aquarius, or a moon in Aquarius, and you're like, oh god, that Pluto moved into Aquarius, you know, that's constructive astrology right there. Like, think about that Pluto as a fungi, and think about that as really, through that at times painful process, but it is decomposing something, so it can free, you know, carbon and oxygen, and, you know, it can regenerate your own soil there, so you can grow further. You can I'm just thinking, what if you have a bad, like, some hard aspect from Pluto, maybe if you eat more mushrooms in a period, maybe that helps. I'm just thinking. Well, yeah, I mean, if you relate to the Pluto, I do believe that. Because of the symbolism of things, you know, if you consciously relate to that element of life, you know, if you consciously bring that, I definitely, you know, if you cultivate mushrooms, even, like, not just eat them, but like cultivate.
I like that.
People cultivate mushrooms. You know, make kombucha, because you have to have a mother mushroom there to make kombucha.
And I'm thinking also, you know how Pluto, like when you the bad fungi, you know, when you have in the cellars or the water, like, it's also Pluto, right? So it's connected with, like, it's so interesting. I'm now looking at mushrooms in a totally different way. I have to say, you open up my eyes. I wanted just to ask one more thing. Do you like to cook? And yes, why no? What are your placements regarding that?
Good question. I've worked as a chef in a community a few years ago in the forest of Dean. So I was cooking for like 60 people sometimes, and it was a very and it was a very good experience, because it's very wholesome. It's something very wholesome to feed people, to work with your hands, to be present, and to have fire as well near you all the time, because you're turning on the hobs and you're there, the fire. I think there's something quite transformative about cooking and about doing that. But I have to say, as I get older, I'm more appreciative of flavors. That's definitely something that I noticed. I'm more appreciative of good things. And I'm noticing that. I think I'm going more into my descendant a little bit, and reclaiming that Taurus in my descendant, and being really appreciative of that. But I'm more of an intellectual creature. I have to say, I sometimes resent having to cook on a daily life. Like, I'm like, if I could just...
It's such a waste of time.
If I could just study all the time. Like, if I could just think about talks And if I could, I think my daily, although I'm a Virgo and I have to have a good routine so my body works and function well, I'm very in the abstract world. Like, I'm very in the abstract mind. I'm having insights. I'm thinking about things. I'm having ideas. I'm watching documentaries. I'm searching for people's charts. You know, I'm constantly thinking about that. So when I left my job as a chef, it was a relief because I wanted to do more astrology, and it was kind of getting on the way of my astrology. So astrology is really my passion more than anything else. But every now and then, you know, there is something wholesome about cooking. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm also thinking, so people cook for different reasons. Some just cook because they need to feed themselves. Some love the process of creating a dish, and some love to cook to nurture others, to bring, you know, some people love entertainment, for example. You know, I'm going to cook and bring friends and family over, right? So that's also another style, right? That's just the style of cooking, but the environment and how you like. Some people like barbecues or going outside and cooking in the open fire. Some, you know, some don't. They like very, you know, everything. So that's also in the chart, right? It's the what you want to do with that food at the end, right?
Yeah,
not just making it, but what is the feeling? I love having people around. I love bringing, I like baking more than cooking, and I love bringing people and just, I don't know, I feel I like probably like to nurture. I think that's probably would be my number one thing why I like to cook. Kind of.
You said you got Venus in Cancer, no?
Yeah, I have Venus in Cancer with Jupiter there as well in Cancer. So
there you go. That
even
big
more.
Table. Exactly. It has to be a big table. It can't just be a little table with just a few people. It has to be a lot. Yeah.
And a lot of dishes, not just one. Like I have to have like 7 sides, 3 salads, you know, like all this, and like little like as Gemini finger food, like little, you know, little olives here, little olives. Yeah, I just love that, you know.
Absolutely. So that's the style. Let's see how interesting that is. I've got Moon in Libra. For me, it's really important to make beautiful food. I can't stand with just browns. You know, when you have like a brown this, brown that, there's no herbs.
And you wouldn't eat it, right?
In my
food.
So
you wouldn't even eat it if it's delicious. If it doesn't look nice, you wouldn't eat it, right? That's Libra,
I don't like it
right?
so much. It's gotta look nice. It has to look nice. And it has to be perfectly divided as well. You know, the portions. Like I always felt it was really crude that people didn't share the food properly.
That's Virgo. I would say that's a Virgo thing. It has to be.
Libra as well. It's like it has to be equal.
True.
That is true.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Oh yeah, you know how people just put everything. You know, like they talk about, are you a person who likes fries like ketchup on top, or do you dip? You know, like that's also.
Exactly. Absolutely, it's the style thing. In Brazil, is this question: do you eat rice and beans? Do you have the rice first and the beans on top, or the beans and then the rice? And it's like this is a style thing.
I had some conversation with some Italian people as well. You know, like when you do bolognese, I like to put my pasta in and just do it. And they say, no, you have to put pasta and then on top bolognese. I like to just, like for me, I like everything to be blended.
There you
go.
They
told me you're not supposed to do it. Yeah. That's interesting.
And that note, the style as well. I like freestyling. I don't like to follow recipes, which is another thing as well. When I did my research, that's something fairly new. Yeah. And there is something fairly new in terms of, I think, postmodern society and how we started like recreating recipes rather than trying to follow. I mean, apart from baking, obviously. But when we start to really do our own way, you know, so we read a blog post and we're like, nice. I'm going to use kidney beans instead, or I'm going to use this instead, or I'm going to replace the meat with this, or, you know, and so we're kind of taking ownership of that recipe and creating and recreating it on top. And I think that's, in general, like part of our society, but it's something that I really resonate as well. Is that I gotta do my own way. I can't just follow a recipe, you know.
That is true. Yeah, like my husband is total opposite. If he doesn't have step by step, like he's like, you know, like a strong Saturn Uranus conjunction, and he has, you know, he's still like engineer approach. If he doesn't have everything with breaking up, he doesn't do it. Like this is not proper.
No, I like to taste it, you know, like a mad sort of, I need to taste it, and like it feels like a cauldron and you're just creating a potion of some kind.
I love that. I just want to touch one more thing, and then I'll let you go. I think we had a beautiful conversation. What would you say about which placements don't like to cook at all? Like total opposite of cooking. What would be that? Or not enjoying food? Not food, but cooking.
Question. Let me think. Um, let me
I don't
think.
know.
That's a good
Yeah, I was just
question. I mean, you know, I had this conversation. We had a laugh. I think when I was presenting as well my talk, like, the that Taurians don't actually like to cook; they like to eat. So it's like they like to cook because they want to eat something. Um, but I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, maybe
I'm thinking. I would say
maybe Aries, because they're
I would say Capricorns. I'm just thinking about one of my friends. Some of my friends that are Capricorns and they don't like to cook at all.
mm,
You know, they like to go to a nice restaurant and be served.
yeah,
You know, like they like to
yeah.
be served. Yeah,
They're
I'm
like
just
busy
thinking.
doing something else, isn't it? I would imagine
Yeah,
that Leos like to be served as well. You know, they don't
absolutely.
particularly
Yeah,
want to do it,
yeah,
but because
yeah.
people are like a whole myriad of placements in their charts, you know, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true. We can generalize. Yeah, we can. We have. There's so many different things. That is true. That is.
Yeah, like Aries will be too busy rushing to do something else, you know, or they would cook things that are too quick because they don't want to
Yeah,
waste
they don't
time
have
with
time.
cooking.
There's no time. Yeah, yeah. There's also an interesting thing. Who would like more fast food and who would like slow cooking? I feel that
Mm-hmm.
Tauruses, any Taurus placements, they have time. Like they're gonna put it slowly so they can enjoy the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I as a Gemini, I like to kind of go quick. I mean, I enjoy good food, but a little
Yeah.
this, a little that, fast.
I think the Gemini
Interesting.
is definitely experimental. There's this very
Yes.
strong experimental kind of characteristic, and maybe that's why so many chefs have the Gemini there, you know, because
Yeah.
they're
That
like
I
always experimenting, putting things together, and trying new things.
You
Yeah,
opened my eyes completely with this
because
information.
people, you know how people like are creatures of habit as well. Like they eat the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, you know, a Taurian could eat the same stew every day or something, because it's good and it's satisfying and they can eat that. I think the Gemini brings that sort of like, oh God, I need to try something new.
Yeah,
I'm
I
bored
like
of
to try,
this.
yes, I like to try different things all the time. And then every once in a while, I like to have a comfort food, but it's like very rarely. Usually, I would try, I never have like leftovers for next day. No
Mm.
way, I can't do it. I have to, put something different on it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, so that's also
exactly.
one great aspect of food and astrology. Who, like, I know some people, and yeah, they like this. They order the same dish every time in the restaurant. It's
Yeah,
safe. I know what it is. It's gonna give me pleasure. I don't wanna, what if
exactly.
I order something new and I don't like it? I'm gonna be hungry. No,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's more,
Exactly. Yeah.
so it's
Creatures of
more earth.
habit.
Yeah, so that's more of an earth element would be like that. I would
I
say,
think
right? Or
so.
or
Yeah.
a fixed modality.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
I
If
agree.
you're,
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, to be on the safe side.
To be on the safe
Absolutely.
side. Yeah,
I think
and
definitely.
amazing.
So that comes the
Yeah,
style, you see, is the style of each sign and of each chart as well, and how unique. But we're definitely all connected with food, isn't it? It's something is our survival, and it became our
absolutely.
pleasure as well, and it's something very important in our lives.
But thing is, we actually all have a relationship with food, whether we knowing or not. Like we all have some kind of relationship. Do
Yeah,
we like it or not like it? Do we just
yeah,
And I always feel that we are born with a signature, but then we evolve. Our chart evolves with us as we grow and have experiences.
yeah,
So as we, so does the
absolutely.
chart, right? It's not
Yeah,
fixed. Yeah, I
we
think
step
that's
into new corners of our charts as we get older, and we
yes.
also go back into certain corners of our charts with a different eye as well, which is hopefully, because we're here to grow. Like, we're really here to evolve, to learn things, to become wiser, hopefully. So then we step into new corners, and I think the secondary progressions, for example, are like a way
Mm-hmm.
of measuring that somehow. Like, a progressed moon is going to go around every 29 years, 28 years. So it does go around your chart, and shining the light in different placements, and so
This
absolutely.
is where your method goes. This is where your method goes perfectly. Looking at
Hmm.
those how we evolve as a chart in a positive way. That's why I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I don't know
we're
what
given
time is it. I don't know.
chances.
Do you know what time
Huh?
is it? I kind of lost
I
time.
think
It was
it's
so nice check.
10 to 6 here.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're going to
Yeah,
wrap it
it's
up.
okay. It's being so nice.
Yeah, it was amazing to talk to you. I learned so much. This was so much fun. I wish you all the best in your future work. And for everybody, please, you have to follow Fernanda. She is so positive, so optimistic, so much insight. As you heard now, she has so much
Thank you.
knowledge about not just astrology, but everything, and history and whatever.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate you coming. I love it. I loved it. I loved it. Thank everybody for joining us. I'm gonna save the live, so for anybody who couldn't, they can watch later, or you can watch it again and make notes. And I'm
Nice.
definitely gonna think about mushrooms differently now.
Nice. Nice.
Anyway,
Wonderful. Great. Thank
thank
you
you.
so much
Thank
for
you.
the invite. It's been a real pleasure.
It was amazing. I love the mercurial talk. So thank you so much again,
Me
and all the
too.
best. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you to you
Bye,
too. Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.